ersten Ideen kamen Anfang 2005.
The first ideas came in early 2005. At the time, I was working on discrete circuits, and these developed into a high-quality operational amplifier that I built myself. I soon realized that this is the perfect fit for something special. I had previously worked at SPL for 10 years, who specialized in studio equipment. I invented the Transient Designer, Gold Mic, Channel 1, and many other products. That's how I gained a lot of experience, but I was also a passionate musician. I played bass and piano in a band, so music has always been my focus. In 2005, I also mixed live sound as a front-of-house engineer, and noticed that, especially with compressors that are being used on vocals these days, a lot of gain reduction was necessary. The human voice has an unbelievable amount of dynamics, and a compressor has to work properly. I noticed that the live compressors that were being used at the time, for me, they simply weren't transparent enough, and the speech intelligibility was really not available. Because of that, the idea for a compressor was born. A compressor that stays clean and clear, even with extreme gain reduction settings, that moves the expression of the musician forward. It was 2005, MusicMax Frankfurt, and I honestly have to say that it was a sleepless night. I had lots of ideas, but no concept. Then the next day I took a piece of paper and drew something. And that was nearly the alpha compressor as we know it today, with all the functions like parallel compression, MS, the filters. But I can't really say why I came up with it. I then went to my buddy with my pencil drawing and sketches, and he basically did a first rendering on CorelDRAW. The unit had to have a name, so we decided to call it FatMax. You can already see the concept of the alpha compressor developing on this drawing, but of course in terms of design, it was completely different. And that's where it all came from, the idea for the company called Elysia. The alpha compressor is strongly connected to the foundation of Elysia. And then we thought, if we build something extraordinary, then we need a special design. It had to be something really special. If people were going to look at it, they have to say, wow, what is that? Then we drove to Dusseldorf to a design company and said, we want to have something extraordinary, but have no money and can't finance anything. It didn't matter. The guys were really motivated to make the most of it. They dove in and it was so crazy. They made tons of pencil drawings and sketches from concepts, and what they came up with in the end really blew us away. And from these drawings and sketches, 10 renderings were created for us to choose from. Every single one of the design concepts was pretty awesome. There were some really crazy ideas, and any one of them could have been used. In the end, one design was developed, which then became the alpha compressor. It already contained the illuminated controls and the Elysia logo circle in the middle. This circle logo in the middle was the real eye-catcher. Of course, I was still very busy and had developed many new circuits during this time. And one thing should not be forgotten. The alpha compressor was a completely new development from scratch. I drew circuits with a pencil and then soldered it on the breadboards. The first silver prototype had entirely self-soldered boards. And this prototype is what we used to introduce the alpha compressor to our customers. After these incredible design renderings, we continued working to create the final design. That was again an exciting process with lots of coordination work, but we had to figure out how to produce something like that. Designs can be thought up, but in the end, you also have to be able to produce and manufacture it. At that time, a good friend of mine who worked in mechanical engineering helped us to redraw the parts, to edit them so that we were able to build it. I think it was fall or winter when we did that, and there were so many parts we developed by ourselves. The whole alpha compressor is basically one custom-made solution. There's no part on the unit that you can buy elsewhere. The most important show at the time was, of course, MusicMax in Frankfurt, which I already knew of from my time at SPL. My buddy built us exhibit furniture so we could properly represent our company, and we only had one product. And that product had to look great somehow. That's why we built a counter and a pillar where the alpha compressor stood proudly and saw the light of the world. We were really curious what the reaction would be, but people immediately were impressed. At the show, we also met our first U.S. distributor, and he invited us to AES in Paris where we could exhibit. So we had a follow-up appointment, and this gave us access to the U.S. market. Prototyping is one thing, but serial production is completely different. At that time, we were still a startup, and the truth is, we had a lot of time, but no money. That's why we said, we'll do most of it by ourselves. Because the Alpha has so many turning parts, you had to do one side of the machining process, and then the other side is a second machining process, which turned out to be really difficult. So we bought our own lathe to help with that second process. We also made special turning tools to be able to work on contours. That was also a very exciting time because we worked in a garage where it was hot in the summer and totally cold in the winter. In between, we had coffee and cake. Simply a great time. Then we noticed that it was always very complicated to unclamp and clamp apart, so we equipped the whole thing with a PLC, which we built overnight. Quite adventurous. Or we drilled bolts and milled threads. We spent the whole summer with that. But at the same time, we also assembled the circuit boards, which I then tested myself with an oscilloscope and a wave generator, using the simplest means possible. All this just to start the first serial production.
Damit die ersten Serienproduktionen hinzubekommen.
The first trade show in the USA was AES in San Francisco in 2006. For me, this was something new and exciting. My first time in the USA, in San Francisco, and at a whole new show. Our distributor organized a studio tour, having contacted various mastering studios, and then told them, hey, here's something completely new that you need to see. We visited studios in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York. I have to admit, it was a really insane tour. We were on the road for 11 days. Shortly after that, we finished the first serial production. In November 2006, we delivered the first units. In January 2007, the first review of the Alpha compressor was published in the German Studio magazine.